course, I got to bring my favorite guest that I always bring, my man Iceman John Scully, because I got a few things to ask him. There's been a lot of crazy things going on in boxing. We just had the announcement that the New York State Athletic Commission has ruled on the Gervonta Davis controversy. We all seen what happened. There's stuff I want to ask him about the Bivol versus Beterbiev rematch. We're going to get into that right after this. John. Hold on, we're about to bring my man John on right now. Give me a second. Let me bring my guest of honor on. My man John Iceman Scully. Welcome to the show, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
John, man, boxing has been a little crazy over the month of March. There's so many things I want to ask you, to be honest, but I'm going to start off with, first of all, how was your trip to Saudi? How was everything that went down over there?
I mean, I liked it. I like Saudi Arabia. I like the people. I made a few friends over there that I actually keep in touch with. It's a good trip. I really enjoy going there. I wouldn't mind going back at all.
I mean, it looks like you guys are probably going to go back. I mean, but I was going through the fight recently, and when I watched the fight, and obviously Bivol got the decision, but I kind of want to go run through the fight with you real quick, if possible, if you don't mind. So when I was watching the fight, I felt like it was kind of very similar to the first fight. I felt like Arthur was putting the pressure on him, and at one point in the fight, I think this was the 7th round. I heard you. You came to the corner. This was in the 7th round. You jumped in and you said something that stood out to me during the fight. And basically what you said was, Arthur, you're allowing him to gain his confidence. And I remember this verbatim. You looked, and this is exactly what you said to him. And that round, that was his best round. That was kind of the return round. I felt like at that point, I felt like you were 100% right. I felt like Bivol gained a new confidence. What were you seeing in that fight that maybe was different than the first that you came out and stated that?
Well, we started quicker, which was, by design. Mm-hmm. I thought we did very well. I thought going into the 7th round, I was very comfortable. Like being there ringside, seeing it from where I was sitting, I was super happy with the way things were going. Arthur, I thought the game plan was working. I thought everything was good. I think it was the 7th round, maybe the 8th, but I think it was the 7th, where I felt like Arthur took the round off, to catch his breath and, get situated. But Bivol ran with it. He took advantage of it. And I remember saying to Arthur in the corner, don't let this guy back in. Like, you're letting him back in, we got to keep him out. Keep him where you had him. And I just felt like, Bivol was turning the tide a little bit. But with that being said, I do remember when the fight was over, I don't really score the fight round by round. I just go by what I feel at that moment. Mm-hmm. When the fight was over, I felt really confident. Like, I really thought we were going to get the decision based on my view from where I was sitting at ringside, in the corner. Yeah, I really thought we were going to get it. But that was a turning point, and Arthur picked it up like he was supposed to. But that's what I meant too. I told him, just don't let this guy back in. You can't let this happen.
Another thing, you bring up a good point about starting faster, right?
Yeah.
I noticed, it might have been like the 3rd round, but he looked like he was breathing a lot heavier this time. And I was kind of surprised, and a lot of people were saying, oh, has his age caught up with him or not? And I just found it really, I was like, oh man, he's taking deeper breaths over here. And of course, you said it was by design. You wanted to start faster. Why did you feel like you had to start faster? And did you notice Arthur breathing a little bit heavier in the earlier rounds?
Yeah, well, we just felt like based on the first fight that uh, we just we could have had a much more emphatic win if we had started quicker. Like we finished, obviously we finished very very strong, but we made it close because the first half of the fight, we started slow and we took our time,
Yeah.
and Arthur's generally a guy who takes his time, so we just felt like if we could start a little quicker. And Arthur started quick from the first round,
Yeah, he
first,
did.
second. We were thinking maybe third or fourth, but he hit the gas early. That was obviously definitely by design. We wanted to get a quicker start and have a more emphatic win.
Now, going through the fight, I mean, I thought Arthur won the fight. I thought he did what he needed to. I felt like, and this is no disrespect to Bivol, I felt like part of his strategy was during the last 20 seconds of the round to kind of throw some flurries and steal the round. And I think that was something that I think the judges granted him. There was a couple rounds where I'm like, Arthur's dominating this round, and Bivol will just throw some flurries at the end, and I see people like, oh no, he took the round. I'm like, no, I mean Arthur literally took 2 minutes and 30 seconds of that round, and
Right,
he
right.
just kind of threw a flurry, and a lot of it was glove, and they gave it to him, and I really feel like that affected the judges'
Yeah.
decision. That's just how I felt personally. How did you feel about that?
Well, that's an old trick. Like I learned that when I was my first month in the gym. Like they would tell us, finish the last 20 seconds. That's every gym in the world knows they have a code. Like you have a code word, and that means there's 30 seconds left in the round. And and theoretically, like people say, Sugar Ray Leonard, that's how he beat Hagler. Like the last 30 seconds of every round he flirted, but it's kind of silly to me. Like the idea behind it is you want that to be the last image that the judges remember. That you want to finish on, where they remember the last thing was you throwing a bunch of punches. But you can't discount the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds of a professional round. That's just insanity.
Yeah.
So I'm not, as an amateur, I was a fan of that. Like, oh, let's, 'cause that's what I was told to do. Let's finish strong. Let's flurry. Let's shoe shine. But the round is 3 minutes. It's not 30 seconds.
And that's the thing with judging and boxing, that it's really subjective. It's really what they feel. But and I'm not big on conspiracy theories, right? But I felt weird about that decision. And even watching Arthur speak after the fight, he said a couple things that stuck out to me. And one was he never wanted to do the rematch. He felt as if he won and they didn't deserve a rematch. And, I heard Bivol, he came out and said, I want to take some time off. Like literally acknowledging the punishment that he's received within a 4 month span, right? And,
Right.
Arthur said, you know what, now that I've lost whatever, and you could tell he was bothered, but he said, you know what, I want an immediate rematch. But in the days to come, I think it was a WBA or WBC, I'm not exactly sure, ordered a matchup with Benavidez, which I was very weird about. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Why is it that Arthur isn't getting the immediate rematch? And I felt as if, I don't want to say foul play, but I don't think it was fair to Arthur to not get the first option for the fight. How did you feel when you guys actually heard about them mandating Benavidez for the title?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised. It seems like they're always doing something. Right after the fight, they're trying to, impart their power. They're going to show this is what we're going to do. But I think, in reality, you're going to find out, that the big fights have to happen, and I would say the promoters have a lot more input than the sanctioning bodies may want to really admit. By theory, the way it's supposed to be is the sanctioning bodies would dictate. They would say, okay, this is the next guy in line, and he's next. But we all know that just doesn't happen that way, especially when there's big fights to be made. I would think, out of respect and just the way things go, they'll work something out with Benavidez in the back room. They'll say, listen, we know you want the fight, but look, these guys got to fight the third time. You can't interfere with this fight. You got to let this fight happen. You'll get the winner after. And, And I think boxing fans would be more than happy with that.
No, absolutely. Listen, and again, we all know that they are trying to push Benavidez. He's a young guy trying to come up. I get it. But I kind of felt the way about it, John. You're my guy. Like, I really hold you at a high regard. I love talking to you. I've become a big fan of you and anybody you support and train with. So I take it kind of personal. Like, I'm like, man, I think that's wrong. Like, I'm like, Arthur was kind of, I don't want to say forced, but his words were he didn't think it should have been a second fight. And you kind of made it to the fact that he took it, and they took the fight from him, he lost or whatnot. He should have had, it should have been automatic to me, a third fight. So I was kind of like, man, I really don't like the way they approached it. And, I'm seeing a lot of that in boxing today, and it's more so if somebody's more in a position of power or whatnot, or they feel like he's valued more in regards to the sanctioning bodies, that they're going to do more for him. And I felt as if, I was bothered by that, to be honest. But having said that, clearly you guys want an immediate rematch, correct?
Yeah, at this point, Arthur's 40, we're looking for the rematch, obviously. And I think after his career, he deserves it. And like I said, I would have to think Benavidez, his people would understand. You say, look, man, you can't interfere with this. You're a young guy. You're gonna have your day, and it'll be bigger for you to fight the winner of the, whoever wins the trilogy.
Yeah, and not to mention, Caleb Smith had a phenomenal performance. That was a great fight. And I think that might be something that Benavidez should look into, especially, I feel like he's still getting adjusted to fighting those bigger guys. I don't think he's been as impressive fighting those 175-pound guys. In my opinion. So, I'm definitely with that. But speaking of moving forward, speaking on things I haven't been feeling lately, right? We all seen the infamous Tank knee, right? Where, Tank.
And that right, but Davis took off some of the steam of the punch, but still, Roach leaned with that, and he took a knee. He took a knee.
Doesn't get punished for it. Pretty much doesn't get counted a knockdown, and the corner comes in and wipes his face, and Lamont Roach ends up getting a unanimous draw. It's called a unanimous draw. Now, of course, a lot of people feel as if that round was called correct, Lamont Roach should have been granted the win. How did you feel about that? Have you ever seen a situation where a referee starts a count, then approaches the fighter and says, don't do that because then it looks like a knockdown, and allows the fighter to get his face wiped? Have you ever actually seen anything transpire like that in all of
I
all
don't
these
remember.
matches?
It was kind of bizarre. And and be honest with you, I feel for the ref, because it happens, you're like, I'm sure referees have nightmares about those type of things. It's like, man, I hope this doesn't happen to me, and I'm on the spot. And I'll be honest, when I was younger, I'm contemplating different areas, and I never wanted to be a referee, and that's part of the reason why. Because in a situation like that, and you're under the gun, and you get, you feel like you're trapped, but I think most other fighters who take a knee, they're going to get it. It's called a knockdown. And nobody's really mentioned this. If you remember, Montel Griffin did the same thing with Roy Jones. He took a knee, and he was obviously, trying to get a rest. He needed. He was giving himself an 8 count, right? And Roy caught him, hit him, and didn't realize or whatever. But the point is, he did it because he knew it was going to result in. So Tank did this.
You can't take a knee.
You can't do that. You can't take a knee in the middle of a fight. No matter what. And here's the thing: I've been in situations in my own career when I had different things going on, it never occurred to me I could just take a knee and the ref would, let me have my corner wipe my face, which is, as the rules state, you can't come up on the ring apron. That's a disqualification.
Yeah.
They're very clear. So, that should have been two instances. He should have been a knockdown, and then it should have been a disqualification, to the best of my knowledge. So now, granted, like I said, I feel for the ref just because he didn't, it was such a surprise to him. I think he choked a little bit, and but the problem is, if it happened in reverse, if would he have let Roach slide without a point or a stoppage or disqualification? I don't know. That remains to be seen.
Another thing that I found weird, and again, there were rules implemented to protect refs in that manner, and one of them was to have instant replay on the scene. And it bugged me out that the replay judge stated the same thing. There was no knockdown. Didn't even acknowledge the fact that the corner stepped on the apron or anything, and just said it's a go. So to me, I was like, there's things put in place in order, to protect the ref and to help the ref out. And they basically stated that it was, during the fight, they said that it was ruled what it was, right? That it wasn't a knockdown. But after the fight, the New York State Athletic Commission said it was bad production or something that they couldn't. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, are you serious? And to me, that's a black eye in boxing right now, because we all know Gervonta Davis is the cash cow in that situation. He's the A side. And I mean, hearing that really, really messed me up. Did you know about that? That they actually spoke on that about the the instant replay?
I didn't hear that aspect of it, but like I say, what constantly stays with me is I mean, never in my life have I seen a guy go get his face wiped. By his like that. It was almost like a comedy. It was almost funny. And like I said, I think the ref choked. I think in a way it was so bizarre to him that he just froze. I don't think he really, I think it was such a shock to him that, the guy takes a knee and then he's over in the corner. Now the guy's got the towel and he's wiping his face. And I think he just wanted to disappear, and he wished it never could have happened. But, I would certainly understand Roach being kind of upset about this.
Now, the commission ruled on it today and said they will not be overturning that round, or they're going to leave it as a draw. How do you feel about the New York State Athletic Commission not stepping in and righting the wrong in that situation? What's your take on that?
Well, here's the thing. Just that one, forget about the corner man jumping up, but taking a knee should be a knockdown. Like you can't take a knee. You just can't. You can't take a knee. Like I say, I wish there was times in my career, if I could have taken a knee, because something was wrong with me, that would have been great. But it never occurred to me, because I figured they would have stopped the fight if I would have taken a knee.
Yeah.
So he, and I will say, Davis looked like he panicked a little too. Like, he stepped back. I don't think he meant to take a knee initially. He stepped back and I think he was trying to figure out what to do, all in the span of like a second and a half.
Yeah.
And then he just hit the knee, and then he saw the corner man, and he jumped up, and it was. I wish it never happened, but I think what's right is right. I mean, that's a knockdown. It is.
And it's funny, when I watched it back a few times, I felt like, and I think this played into it, was, he demoted Calvin Ford to the second seat, right? He was always the head trainer. And I felt like he was really confused at that point. When you look at him, he's not really hurt. I felt like he was trying to break momentum and didn't know how to do it. And I feel like there was a lot of confusion in his corner, because they were arguing prior to that and even after the round. And when he went to a knee, it was kind of just on some, because he looks to the side and then goes to a knee. So I don't know if somebody told him to do that, but he looks to somebody, I don't know who it is, and drops a knee. But I feel like that part of it, and again, the entire promotion of this was very weird with Calvin Ford not being there, being demoted, and then him not wanting to answer questions as to if Calvin fired, and still keeping him there, moving him to the second. How much do you think that could have affected the corner? Because how do you go from the head trainer to the second seat when you brung him there? How big of a move do you think that was?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's an insult. Like I don't know the logistics of it, but no matter what it is, if I'm him, I'm insulted. And I'm the type of person, honestly. If I was in that position and they put me as the second man, I would say I don't want to be in the corner. Like I'm not the second man. I'm not doing that. So me personally, I would have bowed out. I wouldn't have been in the corner because I would have felt so angry. Being the second man, I'm standing right here. Like my job is 12 and a half inches away. I'm supposed to be in your seat. I don't think, me personally, I don't think I would have stood for that at all.
And I think a lot of that had played into why he went to a knee. Like I really believe that he was confused. And the first press conference, the question was, why isn't Calvin there, right? Then the second day, I think they had it in D.C., he's there and they have like an awkward exchange. And there's questions everywhere. Did they fire Kenny Ellis? Did they fire Calvin? And then I don't even know when they announced there was a new trainer, but when I seen a new trainer there, I was kind of like, dude, that's a slap in the face. Like there must be a lot of things transpiring in that corner, and I think all of that combined led to what the product that we've seen there. I feel like Tank didn't know what to do at that point. I feel like he's never had a fighter stand up to him and kind of counter him the way he was countering. Lamont was not running away. He was standing there, and usually guys run out of energy and boom, they go to sleep on Tank. He was catching Tank, and I feel like he did not know what to do. As the second man in the corner, right? If you're in Calvin's position, you don't want to step on the head trainer's toes. How does that happen? Like, how does that even work at that point? How confusing of a situation is that?
Right. Well, I would imagine he would have felt like, you wanna handle your duties, right? You wanna say what you have to do, but you're not the head guy now. But I would think, if it was me, if I was demoted to the second guy, but I saw where I could make a difference and say something, I think I would have reclaimed my hypothetical spot. I would have just reclaimed it right there. So listen, man, this is what needs to be done right now. You got to impart yourself. But it's a tough thing because, as a trainer, you're there. It's an emotional thing. You develop a bond with the fighter. Yeah. And, being demoted, that's like, it's like your girlfriend, breaks up with you and because she has a new boyfriend, but she still wants to be friends. What I mean? It's like, nah, I don't think I could be friends.
Absolutely. And what's crazy? What you just brought up was a good point. That you would have took, your role back in a sense. And I feel like Calvin tried to. And if you watch after he takes the knee, they were arguing in the corner, him and Tank. And I was just like, dude, what's going on? And you could tell. I think it was deeper. People are saying that, Calvin came out and said he was going through some personal stuff. That's why I don't believe it. I just don't. I believe there's more going on in the scenes between him and Calvin. And again, I don't know Gervonta personally, but I do know that Calvin has been there since he was a kid, damn near a baby. And just everything that's transpired throughout the promotion, it was just weird. And I feel like Gervonta didn't want to fully get rid of him because he would have took a lot more criticism, and people were already questioning it. So, right. I think in this next fight, he has to make that decision. I don't think he can do what he did in this fight. And basically, is Calvin your head trainer or not? I don't think it can go that way. Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, and like I say, I don't know many guys that would take a demotion like that and just accept it. You know what I mean? Like maybe he did it because it was short notice and he didn't want to disrupt things. But I would think with time to think about it, I would think he would bow out. If you're not, I'm not getting demoted. I've been with you all this time, and you're at this level, and now I'm getting demoted. Now, and demotion means less money, also. Like you're not getting paid the same.
Well, somebody.
So and you're already. As a trainer, you and the cut man make the least amount out of everybody.
And
So
it's funny.
Less.
Somebody's shout out to the chat. Let's talk about it. It says the new trainer's always been in his corner as the second man. That's what he's saying, and he's saying that Calvin had came out to say personal issues, but I still don't understand why in a fight that Calvin still wouldn't be the head guy. I don't see a situation. Even what you're going through, this is the guy that you put it on the line for all these years. He knows you better than anyone, Calvin.
Yeah.
So I don't care what people are saying in regards to, he was going through stuff. Calvin has raised this young man into who he is today. So I mean, I don't buy into those excuses. They're saying an immediate rematch. I don't know if you've seen the fight. Did you see the entire fight or no?
No, I just saw that part of it.
How difficult is it though to return to win a rematch of that magnitude if you're Tank Davis, or do you feel like Tank should be able to bounce back?
I mean, I would think at his level, he's a very good fighter. He should be able to rebound. And this has happened many times in history where a guy has had a tougher than expected fight with a guy, and then they fight the rematch. I could name a bunch of them that I've seen, but you can't take anything away from his opponent either. I mean, this guy, he proved he was legit. He's a real fighter, and look, he may step his game up in the rematch. Maybe that's not the best he had to offer. So I think, all things considered, a lot of people, you get the build up going properly. I think the rematch could be very, very, lucrative and anticipated.
No, I think it is definitely going to be very lucrative. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be an immediate rematch. I don't think the sanctioning bodies cannot. I don't think they'll skip him with all this controversy. But I do believe that Calvin has to be the head guy, and I think Gervonta, if he does do that, I think he wins this fight. I just feel like I think mentally he has to get back to where he needs to get back to.
Right.
But
I mean, it's no secret. This is the first time he's really looked, I guess you could say, vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's a common denominator there. Like maybe you got to go back to the winning formula. And no offense to anybody, but it was working. Why break something?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It isn't broken.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat has a question for you. Before we get to our next question, let me just give his name is Banana Bread, whatever. He says, Gervonta has a poor resume as a trainer. What are some skills you can see in a fighter regardless of who he fights? What skills are only visible against a high-quality opponent? That's the question that he asked.
Say it again. Ask it again.
He said Gervonta has a poor resume. As a trainer, what are some skills you can see in a fighter regardless of who he fights? What skills are only visible against a high-quality opponent?
Well, I mean, resilience. Like if you fight a high-quality opponent, you're gonna meet some resistance. And everybody looks good until they're tested.
Yeah.
A certain amount of resistance, and you hit a guy. Gervonta's knocked a lot of guys out, but now let's see what happens when he doesn't knock them out. And he lands a good shot and they don't go out. Now you got some guys. Everybody looks good when they're decimating people. But what's going to happen when you're hitting these guys with your best shot and they're not going anywhere? And can you adjust and win on points? Can you stay calm? Do you not get, overly wild because you're desperate for that knockout?
Yeah.
A lot of things along in that vein. You have to be able to deal with adversity more than anything. Okay. And like I said, everybody looks good when they're killing people.
Absolutely. Now I know you don't got a lot of time, but I have to ask you this. I've seen you make a tweet, John. And you said boxing is about to change, right? And I'm like, what the hell is John talking about? John be on the inside, he doesn't want to tell his boy nothing, right? And then I see the announcement with Turkey, obviously, Uncle Turkey, signing the situation with Dana White. And not only that, let me add something to it. Canelo goes when they do the face over skull, and Turkey basically tells him, "Hey, don't bring those sanctioning belts up here." What's going on, John? I know you know more. What's going on here?
Well, it's if you remember, it was who was it? It was which fight? There was a fight. Man, my memory's gone. There was a fight years ago. Which one? It was a big fight, and the two guys. Okay, I know what it was. It was Antonio Tarver, and Glenn Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, they decided we're not going to pay the sanction fees.
Okay.
We're just going to fight we're going to fight. Everybody's going to know the winner of us because they had both just knocked out Roy Jones.
Mm-hmm.
They knew the winner of those two was going to be the real light heavyweight champion. They said, we don't need to pay the sanction fees to do that. And they fought like without the sanctions. And after the fight, everybody said, oh, Tarver's the best. Tarver's the man. He beat Glenn Johnson. And so I think Turkey's trying to go along those lines. We know who the best is. Like in some weight classes, I would say it's likely that the person we perceive to be the best and we accept as the best is not even the champion. He's not even, there's three other guys that have belts, but we don't even care about them. So how are you a champion when we don't even care that you have this belt because we don't consider you the top guy? You're the champion of the world, but we don't consider you the best. The champion is supposed to be the best guy. Mm-hmm. So, I think, a lot of people are like, oh, Dana White doesn't like boxing. I said, look, Dana White is the second man here. Turkey's in charge. Like he's the head guy. I don't care what anybody says. He's got the money. And like we talked about before, I like Turkey. I like his vibe. I like his mentality. He brought the Ring magazine back. He likes all that kind of stuff. He seems to be a guy who really likes boxing, and he wants the best fights. And people hate it, and I don't know that much about UFC, but what I do know is that everybody tells me that they have the best fight the best.
Yeah.
That's it. They have the best fight the best. They're, they're almost like laughing at boxing. They're like, man, you guys don't fight each other, like it's crazy. Dana puts his foot down in that regard, and I think Turkey's with it, So if we're going to do something like that, it's a bold new world here if this is what's going to happen. And I think, Arthur and Bivol might be the first sign of that. You know what I mean? Like,
how so?
He, it took going to Saudi Arabia twice in like 5 months to make that happen. You know what I mean? And they got paid way more in Saudi than they would have got paid anywhere else. So so far I like everything I see. And I think, the UFC model, it's not the worst thing I've ever heard, as far as, what I mean? If we want to see some great fights.
So I have a theory of why Dana White, and this is my theory. Dana White turns profit, okay? And let me just make this short and sweet, right? Turkey Alasik has put out a lot of money, he has not made a lot of money based on going by the older way, dealing with the top ranks, the match rooms, the golden boys. He's just shelled out a lot of money. And he goes completely opposite and goes to someone like Dana White, who does go into profit and doesn't pay as much to his fighters as boxing does. Do you think this was a strategic move by Turkey to kind of put the house in order? Because he is shelling out more than he's bringing in. And I believe that's why Dana White has been brought here. Do you think that's one of the reasons Dana White has been brought in?
I mean, honestly, I've never really gotten deep into the business aspect of boxing. So I'm probably not the guy to really give an accurate insight into that type of thing. I really don't know that much about it.
Oh, well, that is my theory. Like, listen, I definitely think that Turkey is trying to make one belt. The gesture to Canelo, and Canelo's the biggest face in boxing. For him not to bring those belts, it is kind of like a slap in the face to the sanctioning bodies. He's like, well, Uncle Turkey said no, and if the biggest name in boxing does that, it is a big thing. So that's what I'm gonna say about that. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what Uncle Turkey got going on coming in the future. Can I get one more question? I know you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on the fight in Times Square outside in New York City? Fatal Fury.
I was actually just thinking about that. And I don't now maybe because I've got friends of mine. We're looking into it. I'm trying to go, but somebody said maybe that they're not selling tickets to the public.
It's free, John. It's free.
Somebody said it was like invitation only though, because they can't fit everybody. If 20,000 people come, so there must be a way. They can't have everybody storming the gate. You know what I mean?
I think they said they're gonna have about 500 to 1,000 seats surrounding the ring, and it's open to the public and it's free. I don't know. I think basically it's first come, first serve, and it's on a Friday night in New York City when spring is pretty much breaking and ending, and summer's almost on the way.
Right.
I mean, so I don't know how they're gonna pull it off. I think they're gonna need the military out there because it's something free
I'll
in New
be
York.
there. I'm going to be there either way. Like I already got friends of mine. I got a couple guys coming in from Detroit, and we're planning on doing something that weekend. Boxing related, but I think it's amazing. And now Turkey's involved with this, right?
This is the prequel. So, Fatal Fury, May 2nd is that fight, and Fatal Fury is Canelo Skull in Saudi Arabia, I think, the next day. So it's insane. I'm not even gonna lie. John, can I, if I sneak over there, can I be your friend that weekend? I just want to know.
Yeah, man, we'll hang out for sure.
All right,
We'll
all
Cheesecake Factory.
Nah, I appreciate it, John. I love having you on, man. Again, I'm gonna need you again next week, man. People love when you come on, and we got to do more work. But I definitely appreciate you, Iceman, Scully.
Yes, sir.
I'll let you do your thing, get some rest. I know you're already back to work, so just let me know whatever I can do. Just hit me up, brother.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you, bro.
All right, buddy. Yes, sir.
Yep. That was my man, John Iceman Scully. That's my favorite person to interview. Always keeps it 100. Always answers everything that you need him to answer. I can't wait to the rematch. He stated that they want a rematch, a part 3. But I'm going to end this interview now. I definitely appreciate y'all. Please hit me up. Let me know what you guys think. Yeah, and we're going to take it. We're going to leave it at that. It's your boy, Norbs. I'm going to chop this one up. This is a really good one. Yeah, I'm out of here. Appreciate y'all tuning in. It's your boy. We out.